I've done a lot of talking, it's time to do a lot of brewing. Let's take a look at making some coffee and espresso drinks on the Cadorna Plus. So simply to make a drink, we'll go from our home menu and we'll press start and stop and we'll brew our drink. Now, because this will be our first shot with this machine, you may find that it doesn't look quite like your espresso should. It may look a little bit more like brown water, right? Well, that's because the very first beans are being fed into the grinder and it needs to learn a bit more about your grind. Because this isn't a brand new Cadorna, cross your fingers for me because I tried to replicate that by playing with my grind settings. You'll always want to brew a couple of shots if you ever change your grind settings. So we'll set the strength to maximum because I need a little bit more pep in my step here and get going. So there's our first shot. It looks maybe a little weak, to be honest with you. I think we could do better. If we brew a few more, the algorithm in the machine is going to learn how to grind our espresso better. And granted, this will probably look much nicer than even your first shot, so keep that in mind. You definitely want to give it a few brew cycles before your machine has really gotten to the settings that will be best for your espresso. Let's take a look now at how the ×2 function would work. We'll make a double ristretto here. So to make a ×2 drink, again, we're going to just push that ×2 icon. Now, there are two benefits to this. So first of all, if you have a guest who wants the same drink as you can make a ×2 drink and then basically just have two of the same drink made at the same time, grinding one right after the other. But let's say too that you really wanted to double up on the total amount of coffee being used in your drink. You could actually have it say half the amount of liquid but double up on your strength. So like your 8-ounce coffee, for instance, could be 2 4-ounce coffees that you've ground. So you've got double the actual coffee in there, but you've got the same volume that you like. That's really good if you want some extra pep in your shots. So just something to keep in mind for how you could use the ×2 function to your advantage. So we'll go up to maximum strength because anything less than that is just a little too weak for my taste. Go to maximum temp, and then we've got 1 ounce here. That should be good. Just keep in mind that if you've got smaller cups like these, they may slide just a little bit when the machine is grinding. And you do notice though too, we have a little lip here on the edge of this, so that'll catch them if they happen to slide. So no worries there. Now we'll go ahead and start, and we'll make a ×2 drink. And with that, we have two delicious, freshly ground, freshly brewed ristrettos, simply with one push. So we've seen some of our shorter drinks, but let's say that you actually just want a full cup of coffee. Well, thankfully we have a drink called coffee, so we're kind of good there, right? But let's go into my favorites because I've set one up exactly the way that I would want it. This is going to be an 8-ounce drink that we'll make with just one push. So this cup that we've got is actually going to be a little too tall for this. So let's do our trays in, seats back. We're ready for takeoff. So we got a little close danger zone there. And that's something that's really great about these machines too, is that at any point during the brewing cycle, we can actually press that start and stop button again to simply stop dispensing. This is really nice, especially if you're programming something like your Americano or maybe one of your milk drinks where you're not really sure quite how much volume that's going to take up in your cup. You can always stop and then go back and make some minor adjustments. Now, again, this drink is called coffee, but there's an important distinction to make when you're brewing with an espresso machine that's still being brewed with very finely ground coffee and brewed under pressure. So the kinds of coffee that we can get from this machine are going to be much richer and more full-bodied than anything you'd ever have gotten out of the drip pot. All right, now let's take a look at the other primary coffee drink that you should be making with this machine, the Americano. As I mentioned, the espresso lungo would be brewed exactly the same way as that coffee. The only difference would be in our total volumes. The Americano is a different game and a bit of a game changer, actually. So we'll program this on the fly for us here. We saw that 8 ounces was maybe just a touch too much for that cup. Let's say we want 2 ounces of coffee, so that'll be our brewed espresso in there. Go all the way up to 5 again. And then let's say this 5.4 here. We're going to brew, and what's going to happen is it's going to grind and brew our coffee, pause for a second, and then dispense hot water. And actually, just to be on the safe side, I'll take that down just a touch, and we'll get started. And we are filled to the brim, equal parts with both coffee and satisfaction.